Shalom, and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Rosh Hashanah sermon with Rabbi Matt Shapiro.
Many years ago, the great sage, Rabbi Nachum of Ruzhin, entered the Beit Midrash, the house of study, at a time when he was not expected. As he walked in, he found his students playing checkers. When they saw the holy rabbi, the students were embarrassed and stopped playing immediately. But he gave them a kind nod and asked, "Do you know the rules of the game of checkers?" They were confused and too mortified to respond. Rabbi Nachum asked again, "Do you know the rules of checkers?" When they still did not reply, he gave this answer. The first rule is that you can only make one move at a time. The second is that you only move forward, not backward. And the third is that when you have reached the last row, you can move however you like. It's a sweet story, if somewhat surprising. Could it really be the case that playing a game could be allowed in the Beit Midrash, the holy study hall? Not only does this story tell us that we could, it tells us that maybe we should. Play may seem to be at odds with our holy work, but it can actually be a vehicle for exploration, connection, and meaning-making. There's a good amount of research out there which indicates that play is not only healthy for us, it's essential. Dr. Stuart Brown, author of a book called, fittingly enough, Play, wrote that play is crucial to healthy brain development. This process continues throughout life and is a kind of neural evolution. And without play, we suffer. As he adds that there can be a play deficit just like a sleep deficit. Think about what it's like when you haven't slept enough. You're groggy, irritable, unfocused. So too when you haven't made a point to bring play into your life. And philosophers have known this for centuries. Plato said that life must be lived as play. Aristotle considered a lack of play to be sinful. And Friedrich Schiller remarked that man is only fully a human being when he plays. It's tough to say exactly what play is. Brown's definition is that play is a voluntary, inherently pleasurable, apparently purposeless activity that is undertaken for its own sake. But one formal definition, just one, seems to fall short in giving a comprehensive understanding. Play's abstract, and it's tough to wrap language around it fully. Some other words I suggest are joy, delight, levity, creativity, improvisation, innovation, fun. Something as fluid and dynamic as play is difficult to describe. So before I go any further, if you're willing and able, I'll invite you to please rise. Please rise. And take your right hand and slowly extend it forward and bring it back. One more time, take your right hand, extend it forward, bring it back. You put your right hand in, you put your right hand down, you put your right hand in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey-pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Next hand, you put your left hand in, you put your left hand down, you put your left hand in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey-pokey and you turn yourself around. And that's what it's all about. All right, that's enough. You may be seated. I can't believe that worked. I was so stressed this morning thinking about that. Instead of just talking about it, I wanted you to experience it. I hope that taking a moment to be playful helped get a sense of what I mean. It's something that can be a little silly, somewhat unexpected, that calls on you to be present. And even if this playful moment was uncomfortable for you, it does illustrate this idea more fully than words could. As you might be able to guess by now, I wasn't always the easiest student to have growing up. My behavior wasn't mean-spirited or cruel, but I do have a naturally playful nature, and I wanted to joke around and have fun. For a long time, I thought this was something I was supposed to just grow out of, that in order to be a real adult, I needed to stop playing and be more serious. But it turns out it's the opposite. The challenge isn't to stop playing, it's to find healthy and meaningful outlets for that essential need. And so I take my play very, very seriously. I'm grateful for the opportunities I have to play at work. ECC visits are always a highlight for me. I'm grateful to be able to play with my kids, and in proper measure, to be a little playful around the office as well. In addition to what science and philosophy tell us, in my personal experience, play is far too important to be delegated only to kids. And we know this as Jews. Play is a key component of what makes our tradition dynamic. Rabbi Michael Shire emphasizes that play is central to Judaism. Shire, who has created an educational modality known as Torah Godly Play, discusses how concepts central to our tradition are inherently playful and essential to how it's relevant in our lives. For example, there's Midrash. When we dive into the apparent holes in our holy stories, our texts are filled with all sorts of rabbinic wordplay, which explores and stretches the meaning that different words can hold. Rabbi Shire emphasizes that play should be the work of anyone who is curious at any age. Play should be the work of anyone who is curious at any age. By playing with our tradition, we expand its messages and its relevance. After all, our high holiday liturgy is filled with repurposed verses and repackaged rituals. How else could holidays originally centered around a temple in Jerusalem still be relevant centuries later in Los Angeles without plenty of creativity? Because play isn't only about games like checkers. There are different ways of playing, a broader way of conceptualizing what play can be. It can be looser and more expansive. James Carse described this as the difference between finite and infinite games. A finite game is like basketball or Connect Four, a game with rules, a clear beginning and ending, a winner and a loser. But the infinite game is this: life. The primary goal is simply continuing the game itself. There's no clearly defined beginning or ending as we move through our day, which invites spaciousness, an opportunity to see how our experience in the world can be inherently playful. As Carse wrote, the joyfulness of infinite play lies in learning to start something we cannot finish. So which is it? A finite approach where we play contained games once in a while, or an infinite one through which we recalibrate our whole way of being? Why not both? Each has something to add in flipping around what might be our default mode for living. It doesn't need to be binary. We can infuse play into our everyday lives in ways that enrich them without being completely distracted. Since a picture's worth 1,000 words, take, for example, this. You might recognize the guy on the left there. That's me, having a blast at a foam party at Camp Keshet this past summer. I didn't have to be there. I had no specific goal, and it certainly wasn't on my top 10 rabbinic duties of the day list. But it looked fun. The kids were having a great time, and I had a few free minutes, so foam party time it was. I don't remember the emails I sent that day. I don't remember the meetings I had that day. But when I was thinking about this sermon, I remembered this experience instantly. So I ask you, when was the last time you just played? Without an agenda, without a specific goal? When did you last fully lose yourself in something fun or pleasurable, something spontaneous? I'd imagine some of you here might not see yourselves as naturally playful, and you might still be annoyed with me for having you get up and dance a couple of minutes ago. After all, different people play differently. Our old friend Stuart Brown lists 8 different types of a play personality. There's the joker, the explorer, the kinesthete, someone who plays through movement like sports or dance, the competitor, the director, the collector, the artist creator, and the storyteller. Whether you express your playful self most through movement or painting or playing sports or creating stories, all of these actions can be playful. Think about which resonates most for you, which you consider to be most accessible, most exciting or interesting. You might notice as well that some of these descriptions are identical to how we think about God in our tradition. Creating, right on point. Directing, we know God has a thought or two about how we should go about living our lives. Telling stories, sounds like the revelation at Sinai to me. But Rabbi, all this talk of play on Rosh Hashanah, is it appropriate for such an elevated day? Surely there's a loftier purpose, a higher calling we should be responding to as we aim to connect with the divine. In our tradition, we aspire to be like the Holy One. We're each created in the image of God, and we must do our best to emulate God's ways. But guess what? Our tradition tells us that God plays. In Psalm 104, after we say, Ma Rabu Ma'asecha Ya, how wondrous, God, are your creations, just 2 verses later, we read, Leviathan ze yatzarta l'sachekbo, that God created the Leviathan to play with. The Leviathan, a storied, fearsome creature, a massive whale-like being, is actually God's plaything. Our rabbis develop this idea even more. In Avodah Zarah 3b, they tell us how God spends the day, which, according to rabbinic timekeeping, has 12 hours. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, during the first 3 hours, the Holy One, blessed be God, engages in Torah study. During the second 3 hours, God sits and judges the entire world. During the third set of these 3 hours, the Holy One sustains the entire world, from the horns of wild oxen to the eggs of lice. And then, during the fourth set of 3 hours, God plays with the Leviathan, citing that very verse from Psalms. For God, play isn't just something to do once in a while. It's something to spend hours doing every single day. Our rabbis here teach us that play is just as important as study and judging and sustaining creation. Think about what your day would look like if you spent a quarter of your waking hours engaged in play. Think about what your day would look like if play was just as much a priority as anything else. And it's not only the Leviathan. In chapter 8 of Proverbs, wisdom personified is speaking and says that at the time of creation, it was with God as a confidant, a source of delight every day, rejoicing before God at all times, rejoicing in the world, finding delight with mankind. Wisdom personified has always been present, we're told, and continues to play in front of God, and in fact, plays with us too. What does that mean, that wisdom plays in the world, plays with us? It means that we can arrive at deeper insights and deeper connections with the world through play. Play is what brings us to wisdom, and maybe even more than that. Alan Watts, a thinker who brought many Eastern teachings to Western culture, echoed this concept in much of his writing. He sees all of creation as God playing hide and seek with us. If the whole world is filled with God, as we as Jews believe too, then our experience of the world is filled with moments in which God is revealed and concealed and then revealed again, dancing with us, calling to us to come find him. Even today, God is still playing. Each of these texts also reflects an essential truth about play. By and large, play isn't done in isolation. It's done with someone else. A key element of play is connection. bringing us more fully into relationship and into the world. When we learn Torah in Chavruta, studying with a partner, deeper insights emerge than if you're just studying alone. So too does the wisdom of play emerge most clearly through interpersonal, or in God's case, interspecies interaction. Doing the hokey pokey solo wouldn't be that much fun. That foam party wouldn't have been nearly as memorable if it was just me on the field by myself. I'm not naive. I know that life cannot literally be all fun and games. Kohelet, the book of Ecclesiastes, teaches us that there is 8 livkot, the 8 lisachek, a time to weep and a time to play. One doesn't cancel out the other. There are certainly, of course, times to weep. And there is also a time for play. Given the sequence of these verbs, perhaps play can serve as sort of a corrective, a recentering. By setting aside time for play, it might help us to move forward from moments in which we weep. And just as God makes a point to balance time between the more serious elements of being God and the time for play, so too do we need balance in our own lives. The world has often felt fraught this past year. It also feels scary looking ahead to this coming year. I wonder about what we're hoping for, the vision of the world that we're trying to create. In chapter 8 of Zechariah, he prophesies that one day there shall yet be elderly men and women in the squares of Jerusalem, each with staff in hand because of their great age. The squares of the city shall be crowded with boys and girls playing in the squares. What does an ideal world look like, according to our prophets, often known as a fairly serious group? A world filled with play. I would go so far as to combine these two verses. The last phrase of that second verse is misachakim berechovot, with the verb in the plural and the noun repeated in that same verse. Maybe, just maybe, to be playful with it, we don't know exactly who the verb is referring to, and the repetition of the noun is telling us something. What if it's both the young and the old playing together in the squares of the city? That we dream of a world in which whoever you are, whatever your age is, you too set aside a time for play, just like God does. With everything happening in the world right now, if we can't find moments for joy and spontaneity and celebration and laughter and play, we've lost sight of what's essential. Sometimes we must weep, and sometimes we absolutely must play. And I have good news for you. You don't have to wait. Yes, there are so many major obstacles between the world as it is today and the world that we dream of. Addressing some of these challenges is within our control. Many of them are not. But you are in control of your time. You are in control of how you choose to spend your days, your hours. Building on that verse from Zechariah, I heard from a friend of mine that today, in the Jewish quarter in Jerusalem, people inscribed these verses on a wall in the courtyard that serves as a play yard for a cheder, ultra-Orthodox cheder, and a modern Orthodox day school. But the tense of the verse was changed to reflect that the prophecy of kids playing in the streets has already come true. It's not so far from us to actualize that dream of a world filled with play, and each one of us has a role in making it a reality. So let's start today, specifically on Rosh Hashanah. Stuart Brown emphasizes that play is called recreation because it makes us new again, recreation. It creates us and our world. How fitting for this holiday. When we take up the call to play, we can find a new path forward, even in times that feel painful. We can engage in this act of creation anywhere, at any moment. So that's what I'm inviting you to do over these next few days as we start the year. Pick a type of play that speaks to you. Set aside some time and go for it. Whether that's crafting a story, painting a picture, exploring a neighborhood, or a nature trail that you've always been curious about, the options are endless. You can even be playful with your prayer, diving into the words and ideas right here in your machzor. There are so many options, so many creative possibilities, many of them far less embarrassing than the hokey pokey. Returning to our story and the wise words of Rabbi Nachum, by embarking on this playful journey, you'll be taking it one move at a time. It ensures that you'll move forward into this year, not backward. And we'll keep in mind the promise and the goal that when we persevere, when we seek out all the ways in which we can be playful, we'll have more movement and freedom and possibility. Pick one way to be playful with the world, with our tradition, with others. Keep at it, and remember the ultimate goal, a more playful reality with more creativity and flexibility and joy. Because, of course, that's what it's all about. Wishing all of us a sweet and healthy and playful year. Shana Tova.
You've been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast website or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information on Temple Beth Am, Los Angeles, please visit www.tbala.org.